are 5 trees that appear in the Bible that help us discover its central story and its good news. In our origin story, God is an artist who engineers the beauty of all creation and gives humanity the distinct privilege of caring for the world. At the center of his creation, God planted the tree of life so that people can be full of life and can enjoy relationship with him as the source and supply of ongoing life. Near the tree of life was a second tree which shows us that God values relationship and choice. God didn't create people to be robots, stuck in a paradise prison and forced into relationship with him, because real relationship is not possible without freedom and without choice. The second tree was God's way of saying to humanity, I want to be in relationship with you, but I will not force that on you. If you want to opt for your own way of doing things, you have the freedom to do so. Unfortunately, this kind of independence from God cuts us off from the source and supply of life and welcomes chaos, corruption, injustice and death into our world. If we're all honest, each of us have opted for our own ways, haven't we? Our independence from God has a fine way of making a mess of our lives and the world we live in. But the Bible helps us to see that God does not want us to be stuck forever in the consequences of our independence. Instead, he wants to work with people in close relationship to bring hope to anyone, anywhere. Not long after the second tree, the Bible tells us that God forms a family of faith through whom he can bring his healing and help to the whole world. Right near the Bible's third significant tree, the tree of faithfulness, God enters into a covenant with his faith family where they promise their allegiance to each other. But, as the story of Scripture displays, us humans seem ever prone to habits of independence, and God's faith family fails to live up to their agreement. However, as we see through the whole Bible, God always remains faithful to his promises and to his people. So, how does he respond to all that has resulted from human independence? Does God want to punish us with payback? Or does he fold his arms and look away from our plight in heavenly indifference? No, he gets as close as possible. The Bible tells us the story of the first Christmas, where God becomes human like you and I. Christmas reminds us that Jesus came to help, to heal and to rescue people. While God had every right to repay us for our independence, Jesus allowed his own blood to be shed instead of the blood of his enemies. The fourth tree is the cross of Christ, and is the divine display of self-giving love expressing itself in forgiveness. Christmas reminds us that Jesus came to rescue people. Easter reminds us that Jesus came to renew people and everything in creation that's been damaged by the history of human independence. In the final chapters of the Bible, we discover that the end isn't really an end, but a new beginning, as God proclaims, I am making all things new. Renewed creation, renewed earth, renewed humanity. All of Christianity rests upon the renewal reality of Easter, where 3 days after his death upon the cross, Jesus overcame the grave and was resurrected. Jesus has gone through death and will one day renew creation and humanity with the same resurrection life. In the final chapter of the Bible, we find the fifth tree, the tree of renewal, which is actually the return of the first tree, symbolizing the renewal of all things, the restoration and complete healing of creation and humanity to God's original and harmonious purposes forever.